Hi guys, on our last video we looked at telling the time, in particular its origins in ancient Babylon, why we use 12 numbers on our clock, and why it's useful. This time we're going to dig a little deeper into different clocks we can create, and different counting systems they demonstrate. Our regular clock has 12 digits. That's a lot of numbers, so I'm going to strip it back and make a simpler clock with just two numbers, 0 and 1. I'm going to give this clock three hands. The first hand, the red hand, is going to be our unit hand, and we'll assign it a value of 1. Next up is the blue hand. This hand is going to do a complete rotation for every 2 the red does, so it's going to be worth twice as much, and we'll assign it a value of 2. Same kind of deal for the green hand. It's going to do one rotation for every 2 the blue hand does, so it's going to be worth twice as much, but this time 2 times 2 equals 4. Now we know how much each hand is worth, we can start counting. First to move is the red hand, which moves to 1. The blue and the green hand are still pointing to 0, so we just have one lot of 1, which equals 1. Now the blue hand comes down and points to 1 as the red points to 0. We have no lots of 1, but one lot of 2. The blue hand stays where it is, and the red moves to 1 to join the blue. Now we have two numbers to add. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Now the green hand moves. Everything else goes to 0 and the green hand moves to 1. We have one green hand worth 4 and nothing else, so this configuration is worth 4. To get to 5, the red hand, worth 1, moves down to join the green hand, worth 4. So we have 4 plus 1 equals 5. 6 is made by adding the green and the blue together, while the red points to 0. 2 plus 4 equals 6. Finally, we get all hands to point to 1, so we end up with 1 plus 2 plus 4 equals 7. To count higher than 7, we need to either add more numbers or add more hands. Before we look at the first option, I need to give my clock a name. I'm going to call this my binary clock, because it counts with two numbers. Binary is the name of a very important counting system that we use all over our electronics, and counts in zeros and ones, off and ons. Okay, so what about adding more numbers to our clock? This creates different clocks which use different counting systems, like ternary, which counts in 3s, quartary, which counts in 4s, or our 12-digit clock, which is a duodecimal counting system. You might notice that this clock has a 12 instead of a 0 at the top. This is because the Babylonians didn't have a number for 0 yet, but the story of 0 is a completely different story for a different time. That's all for today, but tune in for our next video where we'll look at what happens when you add more hands to your clock, and how we can use a magical mind reading trick to figure out the day of your birth using binary. If you're interested in hearing more from either myself or Barbara, we're available as tutors and